Coming up on tonight's UAP News Show.
Are aliens among us?
Gary Nolans' shocking statement on UFO Crash Retrievals.
Tom DeLonge's Trinity has arrived.
UFO Canada! Oh, Canada!
And the first crop circle of the season has been spotted.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of UAP Society's weekly UAP and UFO News Show. I am stoked to get started, so without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Greetings, cosmic enthusiasts. This is Justin, and let's get right into it. Are aliens walking among us? Recently, a paper written by Dr. Michael Masters and two others has caused quite a stir in the UFO community. This paper is being spoken about on all kinds of platforms and by all kinds of people. So let's run through this together. To kick us off, a tweet from Klaus says, "So I guess I'll be jumping headfirst back into the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. Awesome work by @MorphoTime, who is Dr. Michael Masters, and his colleagues, one of whom is a Harvard psychologist with over 4,400 citations." To which Dr. Michael Masters replied, "Thanks, Klaus. Dr. Tim Lomas was a lot of fun to work with on this." In Klaus's tweet, he shows the conclusion section of that paper. So let's look at that in more detail.
Conclusion. This paper has made the case for taking seriously the CTH as a potential explanation for UAP, while noting that it probably ranks lower than other hypotheses, such as the extraterrestrial explanation, although such calculations are hard to quantify. To be precise, the material above actually contains 4 different CTHs. All would involve entities existing in stealth during recent human history, and possibly even before the emergence of Homo sapiens, in some cases, such as CTH2, but differ in the nature of the beings in question. Number 1, CTH1, Human Cryptoterrestrials, a technologically advanced human civilization that was largely destroyed long ago, by example a flood, but continued to exist in remnant form. Number 2, CTH2, Hominid or Theropod Cryptoterrestrials, a technologically advanced non-human civilization consisting of some terrestrial animal that evolved to live in stealth, example underground, perhaps a hominid, or alternatively a species much more distantly related to us, example descendants of unknown intelligent dinosaurs. Number 3, CTH3, former extraterrestrial or extratempestrial cryptoterrestrials, extraterrestrial aliens or our intertemporal descendants who arrived on Earth from elsewhere in the cosmos or from the human future, respectively, and concealed themselves in stealth. Number 4, CTH4, magical cryptoterrestrials, entities which are less like homegrown aliens and more like earthbound angels, relating to the world inhabited by humans in ways that, at least from our present perspective, are less technological than magical, who are known in European languages by names like fairies, elves, nymphs, etc.
Now that we know more about what the topic of this paper entails, let's check out a clip of Dr. Michael Masters himself appearing on Fox and Friends to discuss it in more detail.
So a new study from Harvard and Montana Technological University says, how do you say that?
Extraterrestrials.
Okay, all right, could be closer than you think.
That's right, aliens among us. As we see images like this, researchers are now suggesting aliens could actually be living among us disguised as humans. Not kidding. Montana Technical University professor Dr. Michael P. Masters was part of that study, and he joins us right now. Michael, good morning to you.
Morning. Thanks for having me on.
It's good to have you. Professor, wasn't that the ending of, I think it was Men in Black, the movie, where at the end they had the screen full of people who were, or rather aliens, living amongst us?
It's been a while since I've seen that one, but it's certainly a possibility. The subject does make its way into a lot of pop culture, so it's certainly possible.
So, Doctor, I mean, what is the chances of this? I mean, it seems like every year we have some type of story that it could be true.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is we're very cautious and conservative in writing this paper, and mostly what we're trying to do here is look at the oddities and the weirdness of the UFO phenomenon, which we can acknowledge is real. And as much as this might be difficult to swallow for some of my academic colleagues and for a large percentage of the population, it's important to start moving the conversation past are UFOs real and past the cockpit videos and the testimonies in front of Congress and the whistleblowers and a Schumer amendment and so many things that indicate that this should be taken seriously, and move the needle a little farther into the realm of, well, what are they? Who are they? what could they be doing? Why are they here?
Right.
And that's a big part of why we wrote this paper.
And I know in the paper you talk a little bit about, you know, why do we always see these things around lakes and things like that, or volcanoes? And so the suggestion is, and you know, it's just conjecture, but maybe they came here a long time ago and they've been hiding out there for a while?
Yeah, that's a great question. And sort of the reason I was involved in this study is I've written 3 books over the last 5 years looking at whether they could potentially be future humans coming back through time. And one aspect of this crypto-terrestrial model that we discussed is exactly that they could potentially be extraterrestrial coming from a different planet, and they just set up shop here as it's easier than traveling across the cosmos. Same thing with this extraterrestrial model, that if they were coming from our future, rather than jumping back and forth through time, if they set up shop underground, under the seas, as you're alluding to, possibly on the far side of the moon, it would save a lot of time and energy, and they could conduct whatever it is these activities are that are so important to them here with us at this time, in this place, and without all of the need for constant travel.
I guess, Doctor, the big question would be, is there like a baseline where, when it comes to vitals, where you say this person has to be a human? And if something is different, it's like, this is a little weird. Like, how would you test?
Yeah, that's a great point. And you're right. One of the things that we looked at is, could they be walking amongst us? And I know that, again, conjures up these outlandish notions of some people being aliens, and you're eating breakfast and there's an alien across the cafe. But what we're saying, I know, and we definitely are the first to acknowledge that a lot of this can seem a little crazy. But again, if you think about them in the context of future humans, and that's just one potential possibility here, we would share a lot of physiological characteristics with them, have the opportunity to interbreed. We could hybridize across time, potentially across space. So, and there are, it's important to point out too, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation, all of these studies have shown there are people with extraordinary abilities, like psi abilities, remote viewing, things like
very
that.
interesting stuff.
Stunning report.
Thank you, sir, for joining us live.
I could be doing the show with an alien.
I don't understand what the relevance of showing a experimental, you know, saucer-shaped vehicle was. You know, that showed that there was Army personnel working on it. I don't know what that has anything to do with what his paper was about.
Oh, you're talking about their B-roll footage?
Yeah.
That's just what everybody uses, like filler time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I didn't think these journalists were taking the paper seriously at all.
No.
In fact, I think they were mocking him, so to speak. And then they cut him off at the end, right when he was, you know, mid-sentence. I mean, that's very disrespectful in my opinion.
Agreed. And a lot of the comments reflected that too. A lot of the comments were like, yo, this was kind of a joke. Not on behalf of Dr. Michael Masters, just in the terms of like the presentation, how they couldn't pronounce the word extraterrestrial, and they were talking about Men in Black and laughing the whole time. And then the guy's questions didn't seem very well thought out or worded. Kind of, I don't know, I feel like I'm being too judgmental. But anyways, so that's not the only conversation that was had this week though, or today or yesterday, in relation to that. So Nick Pope also joined the conversation and gave his opinion on this paper and whether or not he thinks aliens are among us.
Now we're going to talk about extraterrestrial life forms. Researchers at Harvard speculate that an unidentified technologically advanced population could be secretly living among humans on Earth. Those Harvard researchers joined forces with scientists over at the Montana Technological Institute. In a new paper, the team hypothesized that sightings of UFOs, quote, could be signs of aliens, quote, concealed in stealth here on Earth, or even, quote, walking among us. The researchers urged the scientific community to keep an open mind and be open to their claims. The research also shared the possible existence of a non-human underground civilization that may be, quote, descendants of unknown intelligent dinosaurs, and also determined there could be hidden occupants likened to angels or fairies that have traveled to Earth. A lot here to unpack. So I do want to bring in a true expert here, world-renowned Nick Pope, previously ran the British government's UFO project and joins us now live to discuss. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thanks. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Well, first off, as I mentioned, there's a lot to this. So can you break down some of the findings here and what they really say and what they really mean?
Certainly. I think it's important to stress at the outset that this is not, for example, hard astrophysics. This is not a group of scientists saying, we have found something and here are the data. This is more, it is a multidisciplinary project, and it does indeed come out of Harvard, but it blends really philosophy and theology. And I characterize it as more of a thought experiment. In other words, what they're trying to do is kickstart a debate within science and within academia and perhaps with the public as a whole. Traditionally, when we talk about UFOs, and recently, of course, this subject has come out of the fringe and into the mainstream, and we've had, for example, hearings in Congress, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why this paper has been written. But traditionally, when we think about this, we tend to think of it in a very binary sense. People think either this is sort of some misidentification of ordinary objects and phenomena, or it's extraterrestrials visiting the Earth. And what this group of scientists are trying to do is say, let's shift the debate. Let's consider some more exotic possibilities. And that's why, as you said in the intro, these ideas that perhaps these things are not necessarily aliens visiting the Earth, but maybe they are some sort of life form that has evolved on Earth in parallel, and maybe they're even living amongst us in human form. I know it's a great old science fiction trope, but I think that's why something like this is not just interesting, but fun, because it catches people's attention. And as I say, with this subject now being discussed in Congress, it is time to have a proper debate about it.
And Nick, I do want to ask you one more question about this, because whenever people hear the terms UFO or UAP, they tend to think of extraterrestrials or of aliens, and UFOs aren't necessarily aliens, right?
Absolutely. It could be something with a conventional explanation, like a sensor error or secret prototype aircraft, missiles and drones. But circling back, of course, to this paper that we're talking about, it may be that we're dealing with something truly exotic. And why take anything off the table? Aliens, sure, but time travelers from the future, beings from other dimensions. A few years ago, we would have dismissed that as sci-fi. Now some theoretical physicists are openly talking about other dimensions. So who knows?
All right, Nick Pope, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to join us and break down things like this. Anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
I think the headline here, in one way, should be that this subject is no longer a laughing stock or science fiction or conspiracy theory. It is front and center, a defense, national security, and science issue.
Well said, Nick Pope. Well said. And I don't know about you, but
I always like watching Nick Pope.
And I was gonna say, I got like reminiscent deja vu vibes from when we spoke to him. It was like in that same little corner of the room with the two paintings on the wall. I think he was even wearing like a plaid shirt at the time.
I think he's wearing the same shirt. Yeah, when we interviewed him.
That's kind of funny. Anyways, we digress.
Go check that out if you haven't seen that interview. That's on the channel.
Yeah. And there's also other UFO folks that have a distant but still related opinion about this as well.
The one reminds us of this George Knapp quote. I came to understand a very uncomfortable idea. The idea that another intelligence lives here. It is not an intruder from somewhere else, nor a traveler just passing through. I think people will have trouble getting their heads around the idea that we humans are living in someone else's world, not the other way around. Wow, that's yeah.
Keep going.
And in response to a recent article called Expert Says Humans Are Aliens, and we were brought to Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago, Giorgio Tuskalos from Ancient Aliens tweeted this. How is this news exactly? Now they're catching on. When this theory has been around for what, decades? Welcome to the future. I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. Right? I love that meme.
Yeah, same. That's definitely a classic. And so after we had all of this prepared, we woke up this morning and found this online. UAP James tweeted this. Dr. Masters' paper, The Crypto-Terrestrial Hypothesis, a case for scientific openness to a concealed earthly explanation for UAP, was pulled from the internet after his appearance on Fox News this morning. Quote, I can't really talk about it publicly right now. Let's take a look at that embedded video.
I went to put the link in the description, and I think I couldn't find the paper. Now, I'll leave that to you to kind of talk about.
Yeah, so this has been a wild ride for a lot of people, it would seem. I can't speak publicly about that. I am hopeful. At first, I was like, oh, good, he just pulled it to fix, change R to is, so that whoever was super obsessed about that wasn't. And then right before I was going on a TV show around 4 o'clock Mountain Time. So this is all pretty recent, actually. I had a conversation with the first author, and there's more going on. I can't really talk about it publicly right now, but I am hopeful, and I am pretty confident that it will be back, and it should be. You know, we stand behind our work. We absolutely do. Like we're all three of us are very proud of this paper. We worked really hard on it. Like you said, it really does bring in a holistic view of this idea and a lot of other things regarding the UFO phenomenon that a lot of times doesn't get considered. So we are very proud of the paper, hopeful that it will return soon, as are a lot of other folks who are really showing genuine interest in this. But unfortunately, I can't speak publicly about the circumstances surrounding that currently.
So I had a similar experience with not being able to find the link, because when I was putting together the news show, I clicked on the link that we had to take me to the paper, and I kept getting this like blank page. It was like just like a list, like a menu kind of thing. And then I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. I thought this was the link to the page. So I'm like, all right, do I need an account in order to be able to view this? So I asked my friend that provided it, shout out Overwatch. And she basically said that like, oh crap, like that link is not working. So I was like, oop, I wonder what happened. So she gave me another alternative link. I click on that and I was able to see the paper. However, it gave me a download option. And when I went to click download, it gave me another error page. So I'm like, what is going on with this paper, like not being available? So of course my reaction was screenshot, you know, I was just screenshotting it. Also, I have it, but I don't know how much longer it's going to be on the internet, or actually no, it's already taken down. So like, I don't know if it's going to be back, come back or on, whatever. Yeah. So,
yeah, it's pretty curious as to why they would pull it. You know, I don't know. But just getting back to their whole theory, right?
Right.
You know, this is wild. You know, what if there actually are, you know, real live aliens or, you know, something else that are disguised as us here, walking among us?
You know, I can't say that I would be surprised, honestly. I mean, at this point, guys, like, who the fuck knows what's going on?
Right,
Excuse my French. Some people get on me in the comments about cursing.
I mean,
but
mind blown, right?
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I've always wondered kind of the same thing, and I feel like this crypto-terrestrial hypothesis paper really pulled it together for me, which is I was always thinking that there's like this one big umbrella, right? And then underneath that umbrella, you've got angels, demons, aliens, fairies, Mothman, Bigfoot, you know, you've got skinwalkers, you've got all these entities, all these creatures, all these things that have appeared to people over the course of history. And I'm wondering if it's like all the same thing presenting itself differently. Are there really all these different categories and there's just so many of them? You know, like, are they coming from another planet? Are they here and always been here? Are there portals that they're popping in and out of, like Rick and Morty style? You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know, I'm glad that somebody with a Harvard background is bringing this conversation to the present, and I'm glad there's already a lot of people talking about it. Yeah, wild is a good word.
Yeah. Now, you know, the paper is not trying to prove one theory over another. You know,
it's
just like Nick Pope said, it's a thought experiment, you know, to bring more exotic theories into the discussion.
Yep.
You know, and I think it's definitely worked so far because everybody's talking about this.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, this is one of the things that I've always thought about. You know, what if they are already here, and if they are they disguising themselves? You know, there's been so many different things that people have said, so many different theories. You know, I don't know. That's one of the things that I want to find out.
Right.
Yeah. So this is super interesting to me. You know, definitely one of the top questions that I have. You know, that I would like to get answered someday. You know, I don't know if it can be answered. I don't know if they are here. You know, do they want this question to be answered? Maybe they're the ones that pulled the paper.
I know. And then that makes me think
I don't
of
know.
like, the whole idea behind the agreements, if there was some kind of contractual agreement made between certain species or races of alien with
government.
certain governments, what are the terms of that? Is it a matter of how many people they can abduct per year? Is it a matter of how many of them can live here unknowingly to us?
Yeah.
There's a lot of different places my brain ping pongs to when I start thinking
So
about
many
this
different
kind of thing.
questions. It's crazy.
Yeah. So it seems that this is a hot topic that has everyone weighing in. What are your thoughts on the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis? Do you think that there are other intelligences currently living amongst us? If so, can you suss them out? How do you feel about all this? Let us know in the comment section below.
All right. So Gary Nolan's shocking statement on UFO Crash Retrievals. A few days ago, Gary Nolan appeared on the Ironclad YouTube channel and had a very interesting conversation about the government cover-up regarding UAPs. During this conversation, they discussed all kinds of things, but what intrigued me the most was his comments on UAP crashes. Specifically, who cleans up the mess and why they happen in the first place.
That is the one thing that none of the whistleblowers have. And I think that is the one bridge that is keeping that hasn't been crossed by people because they don't have that visceral evidence to actually look at. It's the leap of faith.
Yeah, I agree. And so that's what's currently being worked on, is how do we get this done in a legitimate manner so that it's not just an anecdote and a story. And so there's, a few ways to move that conversation forward legally. I'm not advocating that anybody basically sneak anything out the back door. There's one legal way to do it is to go out and look for the evidence ourselves, right? The stuff that is obtained or claimed to be obtained is in the possession of the government because they got there first.
How do they always seem to get there first, though? Is it detection before it impacts?
We have an amazing detection system.
Okay.
Satellites that you've spent billions and billions of dollars on putting up, when stuff goes awry, they get there first. They really do. And so one of the first problems many in the public make, or one of the mistakes they make, is alerting the government first.
It's a ballsy call.
It's a
It's a ballsy call.
You do that, you think you're doing the right thing. But, there are operations being set up to make parallel retrieval teams that have nothing to do with the government, to get there first.
What's the theory among your academic friends in this circle? Say there's an advanced technology from another world that has the ability to travel through space and time, and they can get to planet Earth. Why do they keep crashing so much? They have the ability to get here, but it seems like Earth really trips them up sometimes.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, maybe the advanced technology is even in and of itself unstable.
Okay.
Right?
Considered that.
As advanced as it is, it still occasionally has a mishap. Let's say that we have means to bring them down.
I think that's more likely.
Let's say that some of the things that are brought down were brought down purposefully.
Yep.
Let's just say.
Yeah, hypothetically.
And because they're unstable, I mean, let's just think about that for a second. Here you have a device which, at least our best understandings of how it could operate from an academic standpoint, it's warping space, right? So some of the best theories about how this works, I know it sounds Star Trek, and Star Trek was maybe ahead of its time or something, or who knows, but some of the best theories from physicists who legitimately talk about this, your audience could go look up the Alcubierre drive, a Mexican physicist who sort of started it off and came up with the right field equations that would suggest it was possible, but the amounts of energy required are impossible to access. Right? People have brought down the levels of energy required to something, still outside of our capabilities, but not astronomically impossible. Okay, but you're warping space. Maybe all you need is an electromagnetic pulse of sufficient energy, and that would just disrupt the field. I mean, look, it doesn't take much more than a blast of wind to push a car off the road.
Yeah.
So, similarly, maybe a blast of the wrong electromagnetic energy or a lightning strike would bring the thing down.
I love how they talk in like hypothetical terms.
Yeah. I don't know.
Hypothetically speaking, but yeah, man. So what do you think?
I think we definitely probably have some sort of capability to bring some of these UAP down.
Yeah, and I mean, we've even talked about that on the show before when we covered when George Knapp did that special on the Kingsman, Arizona UFO crash case, where there was a craft that came down, and the man that researched this and took all kinds of witness testimony into account said that basically they had energy weapons set up in the area, and lo and behold, hypothetically, coincidentally speaking, the crash, the craft came down. So this is something that has been spoken about before, and I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I would not put it past the government to have some sort of things to bring these crafts in, take them down, hide them in a hangar, reverse engineer them, and not tell us shit about any of it.
Right. And thinking about the other hypothesis that he spoke about, being that as advanced as the technology would have to be to travel, from another star system to over here, it might not be perfect.
Right.
It could have issues. I mean, how many people fly on planes every single day and nothing happens, right? But, there are some airplanes that crash, if certain circumstances, if they all line up together, then you get a crash.
Right.
That could have, the same type of thing could be going on with whatever these UAP craft are. Just because it's advanced, doesn't mean that it doesn't have issues.
Sure. And I mean, anything that is mechanical in nature, just by design, has the potential to break down or have mishaps or have something not function properly. But another point that Gary made that I would like to point out or discuss with you guys is the whole parallel retrieval teams. Like, who is that?
Right.
Who is that? How do you sign up? And then, like, what kind of access do they have? Are they global? Is this like a covert team of international people? Do they travel to these sites, or are they already posted up, waiting for them to happen? Like, tell me more. Tell me more.
Hopefully they can actually retrieve something, to get some kind of tangible data or evidence, out into the mainstream public.
Right.
That's what I want to happen.
I'm just super curious, like, how that would work, because I mean, like, we've heard stories where, the United States government just shows up unannounced without permission to other countries to snatch up some
the Office of Global Access is what we were told.
Yep. OGA. And they just do what they want and don't answer to anybody. So, like, I'm just curious how, like, a parallel retrieval team would come up against like, what if they both show up on scene at the same time? Is there like a wild west
hopefully not
standoff?
Hopefully
not. I'm kind of afraid for those people, but I don't know. I mean, it is important that, like, once you put it into the government's hands, what becomes of it? But anyways, speaking of huge energy weapons bringing down UFOs out of the sky, let's roll into our next story. So Tom DeLonge's Trinity has arrived. Yay! So an Instagram post from Tom DeLonge says, Trinity is out today with A.J. Hartley, author of Secret Machines, a story about an anomalous craft that was brought down from a nuclear test in 1962 and the ensuing event that became a turning point in the discussion of what UAP may actually be. Soon to be a motion picture. That's the part I'm most excited about,
me
because
too.
I've already consumed this book, guys. 2 days, done. I've already done that. And I really do think it would translate to be a really cool movie. If they did it right, it could be a really cool movie.
Excited. I'm excited to see the movie when it comes out.
Same. And I highly recommend you guys getting this book. Like I said, I read it in 2 days, but that's just me. I consume content like a mad woman, so that's just how it goes. But yes, very good book. Of course, it's not a real true story or anything like that, but It's based on real events.
Yep.
There's real science in there.
Yep.
Like Tom DeLonge knows what he's doing. He wove it in there.
Yeah.
He wove it in there.
Yeah.
So for those of you unfamiliar with the book, I'm just going to read the blurb on the back so you can become familiar with the story. A.J. Hartley's thrilling novel, From the Imagination of Tom DeLonge, ignites our deepest fears and our collective unease. It's 1962 in Trinity, Nevada, a small town on the edge of the desert, home to a military base serving the nuclear testing grounds. Van Lopez and his brother Andy have enough to do keeping their truck running and the local criminal gang happy to be concerned about nuclear tests. Van has dreams, or he's not sure what to call them, that he cannot explain or forget. But when he sees mysterious lights in the sky, he struggles to make sense of what now feels like his earliest memories. On the day of the atomic test, the nuclear blast brings down something over Trinity that wasn't supposed to be there, something not of this world. Now Van is running for his life, pursued by a murderous Soviet agent and government forces bent on keeping all he has seen and all he has remembered from getting out. Romances and rivalries come to a head as he fights for the thing he cares most about, and in the final battle, he may have to make allies of his oldest enemies. A thrilling new novel by the creators of Secret Machines, who, with the help of a team of government insiders, exposed the secret Pentagon UFO program that captured America's attention and led to the first public congressional hearings about unidentified flying objects.
Super interesting story, I think.
Very good read. Highly recommend. Definitely think it would make a good movie.
Yeah, and, it makes me think, did that actually happen? I mean, obviously the characters and the drama that's involved, are fiction, but, does the story have some basis,
some credibility, right?
In truth.
Again, I wouldn't be surprised. We did do a bunch of nuclear tests. I mean, when I saw the map, so I saw a map of where all the nuclear tests happened, in the timeline that they happened, and holy shnikes, there was so many more than I even realized. I mean, it's really sickening when you think about it. I literally got nauseous because I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck are we doing to this planet? Like, we just need to stop. Like, put the matches down, kids. You're going to cause a fire.
So, all right, think about this. The amount of nuclear tests that the United States has done. Take that number and triple it.
No.
And that's how many tests have been done worldwide. Not just by us, but by other governments.
Sickening.
And they're still happening to this day. North Korea was the last country, I believe, that tested a nuclear weapon underground.
I hate it. I wish we would just stop with all the madness.
Me too.
But I mean, I would not be surprised if a nuclear blast brought down a craft.
Yeah,
I mean, if these crafts are in our atmosphere, cloaked, just hanging out, chilling, unbeknownst to us, and then all of a sudden, boom, we send a freaking nuclear bomb through the atmospheres.
Yeah.
If this is, like Gary Nolan said, if this is a mechanical type of craft, they have weaknesses too. Just like a hurricane wind can knock a bunch of cars off of a bridge. I wouldn't be surprised if a nuclear weapon didn't blast some of their energetic fields up and make up.
Nuclear blasts disable electronics and
and they last in the environment for a long time.
It could, right.
I hate it. Anyways.
Yeah.
It's a good book.
It's a good book.
It's a good book.
Get back to the book.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. As always, the link to that tweet and to the Amazon bookstore where you can purchase your own copy of Trinity are in the video description box below, along with all the other sources shown in this show, in the order that they appear. So make sure to check that out.
And to keep the theme of crash retrievals present, we are going to move on to our next story. UFO Canada, oh Canada! The USA isn't the only country with UAP discussions happening. Our northern neighbors are also holding down the line. A tweet from Daniel Otis says, Canada Member of Parliament Larry Maguire continues to press for UAP answers, this time regarding UFO meetings with US officials, and NORAD/Canadian Forces threat assessment. These order paper questions were filed this week. Ottawa has 45 days to respond. And to expand on that even more, Disclosure Party tweeted, this 2023 memo sent to the Canadian Prime Minister indicates that an active transnational UAP crash recovery program exists and incidences were being hidden from the public. Why has the Canadian government refused to answer questions about this document? And of course, curiosity got the best of me, so I read that attached document and found the following excerpts to be pretty interesting.
I can't wait to hear about them.
At approximately 15:30 hours Ottawa time, a U.S. NORAD F-22 Raptor successfully engaged UAP number 23 in Canadian airspace under NORAD authorities. NORAD Canadian CF-18 Hornets has been scrambled, but the F-22s were better located based on time, space, and fading light. The CAF is currently leading recovery operations with aircrafts attempting to identify the impact point and a ground team ready to proceed to the location. However, the mountain terrain, existing snow cover, and expected new snowfall make prospect of recovery unlikely. The area in which the impact occurred is a known caribou migration route, which opens the possibility of future accidental discovery by indigenous hunters should the object not be found during the current recovery operation. As additional UAPs are detected, we will continue to keep you apprised.
So there's no UAPs, there's no crash retrieval programs, yet we better recover these materials before the natives do?
Say what? Like, come on, guys, come on. What is going on here? Don't you guys find that so intriguing? Like, what the heck? Like, they're admitting, okay, first of all, they said UAP number 23.
Right.
What about the first 22?
Yeah, you know.
What? 23? Okay, so we're at 23. Let's catch up to speed here.
How many UAP are here?
I mean, they said we'll continue to keep you apprised as they come through. We'll let you know. So apparently, this is like a casual conversation. So this is the United States working with Canada to recover a downed craft. And by the way, we got to do it quick, fast, and in a hurry because we don't want the indigenous folks to find it first.
Yeah, you know.
What? Okay. So additionally, we have this tweet from UAP James that says, Robert Powell of the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies discusses his investigation of a Pentagon official's 7-minute sighting of a, quote, glowing blue barbell-shaped UFO half the length of a football field, end quote, in Ontario, Canada in August 2013.
Now, we hear about this as we receive new information about a 7-minute encounter between a glowing blue barbell-shaped UFO, half the length of a football field in size. It came from 3 witnesses, including a Pentagon engineering contractor. This happened in southwestern Ontario in August 2013, about 11 years ago. One of the witnesses describing an indigo plasma that covered most of this craft, claiming the craft rotated slowly for about 6 or 7 minutes while emitting an electrical spark-like shower. One witness attempted to film the craft with his camera phone, only to get static when he did, despite the camera working before and after the encounter. So that's the claims here. Now on screen, you're seeing a rendition and a sketch of what they saw that day, the shape of what they saw. I mean, they said 6 or 7 minutes it sat there. The craft eventually shot off at, they say, an incredible speed. Robert Powell is a UFO investigator who traveled to meet with the Pentagon contractor, spoke to him firsthand about exactly what he saw, and he joins us now. Robert, thank you so much for coming on. What exactly did you learn when you spoke to this man, and what's new on this story?
Well, the main reason I flew up to meet with the guy is I wanted to verify that he was who he said he was.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very interesting story. Not only did you have 3 witnesses, but the primary witness was an engineer who had contracts with the Pentagon. And what's really interesting is you have an object that's not aerodynamic, right? So if you wanted to make up a story about a UFO, why would you say it looked like a barbell, right?
Right.
You know,
Make any sense.
who's going to believe that?
Yeah. I mean, it's they say they tried to film it and the camera just failed. That they had that. You know, I mean, that's interesting. That there would be some kind of technology. It's like a blocker, I guess.
Well, actually, the scientist, I agree with him, is he feels that it was just a byproduct of that blue indigo field around the object. It was not necessarily intentional.
Yeah.
The other thing, he initially turned on his cell phone to try to take a photo. And his cell phone went into a boot up mode, so he couldn't use his cell phone. And so then he took his Sony camera. When he first used it, he turned it on, and it immediately turned off. And what he did next is he began to observe the object through the telescopic view of his hunting rifle he happened to have with him. And then later on, the object moved farther away. And once it moved farther away, he turned his Sony video camera back on.
Wow.
And he could see it through the camera then. The camera stayed on. but the video was scrambled, but you could hear the audio.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy to hear these stories, and there's so many of these stories. And again, they come from these credible people. I still remember, hearing on 60 Minutes from these, they're like, naval pilots that have seen things that they just can't explain, and the way it moved. There's no way a trajectory could change like that at that speed. It's amazing to hear. You've got Harvard and Montana Tech scientists hypothesizing that aliens might be living among us on this planet. We also have a new report out that NASA's been looking tentatively in our own backyard in the solar system for signs that Earth is not the only place of life near us. Let's start with, the potential that they could be among us, that maybe there's a dimension that we can't see or experience in some way, and that we're surrounded by life that we just can't see, touch, or feel.
Yeah, I've seen no evidence that there's aliens among us, in other words, on our planet. I've seen plenty of evidence that there's indication that extraterrestrial craft have moved through our atmosphere. And that's based on the speed, the movement, the acceleration. But I don't know that I can, go with the aliens among us part.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me to believe too. But when I look out at all those stars, it is hard for me to think that there's not something out there looking back somewhere. Robert Powell,
Yeah,
thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's pretty interesting stuff, if you ask me. It just goes back to it's just another piece of data that suggests that there is something actually here, and whatever this is, it has the ability to cloak itself. It has the ability to make it so that you can't record it.
Right.
Is that just an effect of the craft and the propulsion system, and it has an effect with our electronics? Or is it something more active where they're actually going out and actively scrambling, the feed or whatever?
That is a very good question. And what came to my mind when I was listening to him talk about the issues with the camera, how first the cell phone went into restart mode, and then he turned on his other camera, and it's like it was working, but it wasn't. And then when he went to look at the file, it was like he had the audio of it, but the visual part was all scrambled.
Right.
It made me think of CE5, because honestly, one of the signs of active, like a successful CE5, is when you have something that you can point at and say, okay, this anomaly happened during this session. And one of the biggest things is technology issues, whether things turn off, or whether they won't come on at all, or whether you had a full battery when you started, and then all of a sudden 2 seconds later, the thing's drained, as if you've been using it for 20 straight hours.
Yeah.
Disruptions with the feed, things coming through sounding weird or looking weird, it's just one of the signs.
Yeah. And I think this crypto-terrestrial hypothesis is going to be a hard one for people to accept or to wrap their minds around, if it turns out that it's true, but we are just now starting to really discuss this in a serious manner, and it reminds me of in 2017 when even talking about UFOs actually being here, it was immediately dismissed, and people would say that they had a hard time believing it, just like this guy just said about aliens actually walking among us. And so I feel like UAP have come into the mainstream discussions, and it's not as stigmatized and it's not as ridiculed as it once was.
Good.
I think possibly this crypto-terrestrial hypothesis will be the same in a few years. As more and more people talk about it, as more and more people, discuss the possibilities, and legitimize the discussion, I think that will help destigmatize, everything else.
Yeah, and I thought it was really cool that this video that I got to feature in the UFO Canada story actually ended up going full circle to
With
our
Canada.
first story, to the Aliens Among Us story. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Just work that in nicely for you. Go ahead. So yeah, I'm glad that Canada is having this conversation. I'm glad that they are revealing things and keeping us in the know. Just gotta say, I love me some Canadian. Shout out Jesse Reyes. Shout out Jim Carrey. Shout out Alanis Morissette, who we just so happen to be going to see on Wednesday. So that's awesome. And if you are located in Canada, or even if you're not, make sure to drop us a comment down below letting us know what you think of Larry McGuire's efforts and if you think he'll get the answers that he's seeking. What do you think of this barbell-shaped UFO? Are you in a country other than the US and Canada? What's the UFO conversation like where you're from? Let us know in the comment section below.
And last but not least, the first crop circle of the season has been spotted. On June 12, 2024, a new crop circle has been reported at the Wilton Windmill in Wiltshire, UK. Thanks to the Crop Circle Connector website and the Stonehenge Dronescapes YouTube channel, we can learn juicy details of this event and see it for ourselves.
The location for this year's first crop formation is the field immediately to the east of the Wilton Windmill, a popular choice which has hosted formations many times in the past, including 2020, 2016, 2011, 2010, and 2004 that I'm aware of. It's a beautiful and peaceful spot. The formation is about 100 meters into the field and is not visible until you are right on it, thanks to the strongly growing winter barley, which is about 120 centimeters tall and in excellent condition. The whole formation must be over 50 meters wide and 100 meters long. The slightly sloping ground on this flattened hilltop and the height of the crops means you can't see the whole of its extent from the ground. A conspicuous feature of the formation is the number of clearly bent nodes throughout. As far as I could see, every laid stalk, which means most of the crop in the circles, is bent about 150 degrees at the first node, and irrespective of the direction the whole stalks have fallen. In other words, this is not regrowth. The very late start to the season had me wondering if the circle makers had got fed up of the lack of interest in their work and had given up on us. So it was a great relief and an extra thrill to be blessed with yet another mysterious miracle in our fields this year. A reminder not to take the phenomenon for granted. I suspect that there is some interesting geometry in this formation, and I look forward to reading what the mathematicians can find out.
Crop circles are interesting to me. There's all different kinds, right? And they normally have some type of mathematical formulas or equations associated with them. I do know that there are some skeptics out there with crop circles, that I've seen how some people can make crop circles with the board.
Yeah, they use a wood board and they walk around.
Yeah,
I know. I've seen that too.
Yeah, so I would like to see video of an actual UAP.
You want the grandiose,
That's
like,
what I want.
you want the UFO in the sky with the beam coming down and the crops folding right in front of your eyes.
Yeah, I do. I do. That's what I want to see.
Okay, tall ask, but all right.
That's yeah. I don't know.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why
right?
not? I would love to see it too.
However, based off the last story, that might not even be possible. With how some UAP can interfere with people's devices. I don't know.
Yep.
It would be cool if, since they know that this is a hot spot, if they could set up a camera, like maybe half a mile away. So it's not close enough to the craft that it won't get interference, right? But yet, in the future, it can record, the actual UAP making the crop circle.
We should send the email to the email people and give them some suggestions.
Yeah, let's do it and see what happens.
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, crop circles can be cool.
Yeah.
I do like how a lot of them, how some of the designs are very artistic.
Yeah, and my understanding is that there's supposed to be, not only math embedded within their shapes and their dimensions and all that, but there's supposed to be like messages within there that, like, if you meditate on the image or something like that, or if you walk through the field, a lot of people prefer to be there in person. They want to walk through the field, and then, like, as they're doing so, they'll get like messages or downloads or something. So that's a part of the crop circle that I've never personally experienced. Again, just to shout out our little CE5 efforts. Part of our protocol is we listen to a crop circle tone
video that was created based off of the mathematics of a different crop circle, and that's how we start off our sessions. So I wonder if we can make some music out of this one. That'd be cool.
Right.
All right,
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't know.
So what are your thoughts on this crop circle sighting? Do you get any specific feelings or recognize any messages when you're looking at it? If so, please make sure to join the UAP Society Discord server and share with the community what you think. An invite link can be found in the video description box below. And that concludes this week's UAP Society's weekly UAP and UFO news show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and while you're here, please do us a favor and smash that like button unapologetically. Click subscribe, ring the little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. Let's raise the collective consciousness together in unity. Much love, peace, and namaste.